A Ledger bats back criticism of new wallet recovery service. Quote, you're saying this is not what customers want. They go on to say, actually, this is what future customers want, said the Ledger CEO Pascal Gauthier, if I am saying that correctly. Gauthier. Crypto wallet maker Ledger came under fire this week for its new Ledger Recover feature, with some posters on Twitter arguing that the service, which stores encrypted user seed phrases with third-party custodians, undermines Ledger's stated commitment to privacy and security. During a Twitter Space session, Ledger CEO Pascal defended the offering, saying, you're saying this is not what customers want. Actually, this is what future customers want, he said. Quote, this is the way that the next hundreds of millions of people will actually onboard crypto. Now, is he wrong? Not necessarily, right? Like we've seen at the Bitcoin conference this week, I've seen a couple videos come out of people saying that they want some form or fashion of recovery, a third-party custodian to basically come back at if they have any issues with their transactions, etc., or missing crypto. So the problem becomes, of course, as somebody that is, I would say a fundamentalist when it comes to cryptocurrency, especially to the Bitcoin white paper, is that when you give up the responsibility of managing your own keys, you're going to give up that privacy and security. But I'm not necessarily sure that the Ledger CEO here is incorrect. In fact, I think he's correct in the manner of which he is stating this, in that a majority of people will want this sort of service. The problem is it undermines the entire purpose of cryptocurrency from the very get-go, right? Because with great power comes great responsibility. What cryptocurrency allows you to do is self-custody your future, the future generations within your family and so on. And it does that by eliminating third parties and therefore, of course, eliminating any corruption that may come along with it. Now, within Bitcoin, there's been a ton of other issues going on too that I will be talking about more in depth, but I haven't gotten a ton of research into it yet. But there is some issues coming out with basically backdoor mining and fee structuring and all of this sort of thing. Plus the slowdown of the network now with the BPC or BPC 20s, or however that works, right? All of the ordinal stuff. We've seen ordinals now come out for Dogecoin. We've seen ordinals come out for Monero. This seems to be a technology that's going to get applied across the board on all layer 1 blockchains. It'll be really interesting to see how it functions. Tangent aside, though, as far as this is concerned, I think that, yes, what he is stating is correct. However, it is not the way you want to onboard and educate people, right? At least in my humble opinion. The incident underscores the long simmering tension between blockchain-focused companies looking to attract new users and ideologically minded segments of the crypto community. It can be difficult to square user experience with core ideals. And obviously that's where everything comes into contention. If you have a third party that is managing all of these funds, at the end of the day, they will have that access to basically participate within any subpoenas from the government, any sort of government control, any sort of financial control, all of that manipulation that cryptocurrency is, slated to replace, all of a sudden becomes an issue once again. And so I think you have to be more ideologically minded if you actually believe in cryptocurrency. And this is something, even within the Caspa communities, even within the smaller, let's say, Cadena communities, whatever it may be, even the Pepe communities, all this, there's a huge focus on price, right? But that price is always converting back to fiat. Once again, the thing is like, it's supposed to be a replacement of an archaic system that is not being fairly levied across the board for all participants, right? And so if the focus is to go ahead and increase, price of X crypto, and that is considered the primary focus, then you lose focus of everything else that surrounds it, or the original purpose, right? The ideological purpose. And then you have to pull into question if cryptocurrency really changes anything at all, right? Ledger is a Paris-based provider of crypto hardware wallets, quote, cold storage devices that link a person's crypto to a USB thumb drive. Compared to browser-based hot wallets like MetaMask, which stay connected to the internet at all times, or exchanges like Coinbase and Binance, which hold crypto on customers' behalfs, hardware wallets are considered the most secure way to hold crypto. Now, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. You can have a more secure way to custody cryptocurrency. You can get offline wallet generators, and when you generate those keys, you can go ahead and place them in something that's never touched the internet, pull that public address out, and custody your crypto in that manner. That would be the safest way. The hardware wallets, traditionally, I've said, are kind of the next step up from that. A little less secure, but more secure than a lot of these, right? Here's the other thing, though. You can always still do, if you wanted something that can connect to the internet, but then you can disconnect it, you can do this in a lot of different ways. Virtualization with any chosen software wallet that you prefer, right, for whichever cryptocurrency you want. These are options. CubesOS, which I've covered before, backed by Snowden. If you aren't familiar with CubesOS, it compartmentalizes each individual application, which can make it a little bit more secure. You can also basically detach any of the network from any of those, attach them as necessary, and so on. You could use Hyper-V to do this, or any other virtualization software. Or if you just want as basic as possible, you could literally purchase like a laptop, strip the Wi-Fi, strip the Bluetooth out of it, use maybe just like a whatever. I would get a laptop that had some sort of NIC or hardwire connection that you can connect when you're ready to connect it, go about your business. And then you're not having to worry about these hardware wallets pushing any sort of, firmware updates that could potentially compromise your system, right? When a person sets up a wallet, they are given a random string of words called a seed phrase that serves as a secret wallet recovery key. Users are instructed to write down the phrase and hide it away somewhere safe. And this is why, at the end of the day, like the difference between generating one offline or even generating one with a software or generating one with the hardware wallet, it all ends up being the same custody or custodial issue of like, you still need that physical piece to put somewhere, whether that's in a safe, etc. Because it would be kind of silly to have like a single Trezor or a single ledger and not have a backup of that somewhere anyways. So when we're talking about keys and all of that, the advantages of hardware wallets are basically that you can disconnect and connect it to your main PC, and then you're basically a warm wallet, right? You're connected when you want to be connected, you're disconnected when you don't want to be connected. And that's how you can manage it. It's like a middle step. But like I said, there are other ways of managing that. But the seed phrase system has some obvious user experience issues. If a person loses the phrase, they have no options for recovering their funds. And just as the phrase can be used to recover the wallet, it can be used to crack a wallet if it falls into the wrong hands. Well, I mean, they're just recovering it. They're not cracking it, right? They have the key. It's like if you have the RSA key to log into a Linux system via PuTTY or whatever, an SSH connection, if you have the key, you have the key. You're not cracking the key. You just have the key. On Tuesday, Ledger confirmed speculation that it was introducing an optional $9.99 per month seed phrase recovery service for owners of its Nano X wallet. The service Ledger Recover offers a way for people to secure their seed phrases without worrying about losing a slip of paper. Quote, when you subscribe to Ledger Recover, a pre-BIP 39 version of your private key is encrypted, duplicated, and divided into 3 fragments. Each fragment secured by a separate company, CoinCover, Ledger, and an independent backup service provider, just the NSA. That was a joke. They didn't say that. I don't know who the independent backup service provider is. Ledger explains on its website. Quote, each of these encrypted fragments is useless on its own. When you want to get access to your wallet, 2 of the 3 parties will send fragments back to your Ledger device, reassembling them to build your private key. Today's sponsor is BT Miners. BT Miners has been a long-time sponsor of the channel and a proven reliable source for ASIC miners. If you're looking to purchase ASIC hardware from Bitcoin to Dogecoin miners, they are available for purchase on bt-miners.com. BT Miners is a trusted source by both ASICminervalue.com and CryptoMiner.com. Follow the affiliate link in the description and tell them SOT sent you to support the channel. Here's the community backlash. A segment of the crypto Twitter responded to news of the feature with outrage, alleging that splitting the encrypted key to third parties could leave it vulnerable, thus undermining the entire purpose of a hardware wallet versus alternative storage options. Users took particular issue with the requirement that Ledger recover customers provided that they provide a government issued ID to the company should they wish to use the service. So obviously here, now what do you get? You onboard everybody with KYC, also known, or just for those who don't know, KYC stands for Know Your Customer. And this can be utilized to track cryptocurrency and basically be able to undermine, of course, one of the core principles of cryptocurrency from the very get-go. This is why you saw a backlash against Ironfish for their airdrop in the US requiring KYC. This is why you see backlash for KYC across cryptocurrency in general, is because it removes that privacy feature and it gives more control back into the government, right? And that is a third party that you shouldn't have to interact with if you were just making a transactions between 2 people. And that is the idea, right? For some in the crypto community, this step violates core crypto tenets around privacy. Of course it does. Quote, sure, you could use Ledger's new Recover service and give them your private keys, controlling your assets as well as a copy of your ID and other personal information, tweeted Alistair Milne, a Bitcoin investor with a large following on Twitter. But why then bother with a hardware wallet in the first place? And to a certain extent, this makes sense, right? What is the biggest problem with cryptocurrency exchanges? If we talk about cryptocurrency exchanges and know your customer and all of that, there's a part, the thing is they control your crypto, right? But this isn't really too far off of controlling your crypto. Sure, they split the seed phrase into 3. They send it to 3 different companies, but you basically just have 3 different entities now that control some form or fashion of your cryptocurrency. So then what's the point, right? What's the point at that juncture if you sign up for this recovery phrase to go ahead and even utilize that in the first place? Just utilize a centralized exchange like Coinbase, KYC yourself, and move on with life. I guess the idea would be what? Because if it almost seems as you're adding additional third parties to this equation, meaning that you are now not only dependent on one company, right? But you're dependent on multiple companies, right? You're dependent on 3 companies to successfully store your data, including your personal information and a portion of your recovery, and that they will always have that, and nothing will happen to that data. It'll never get hacked. The information will never get destroyed, all of that, right? At any point, if any of that happens, then you basically have 3 new points of failure of potentially losing your cryptocurrency at the end of the day. If you don't back it up and you're relying on this recovery service, you now have 3 entities to depend on for the recovery of this service. It's kind of weird. It doesn't make much sense. Some critics use the update as an opportunity to bash Ledger's security record. In 2020, the company suffered from a data breach that exposed the emails of nearly 10,000 customers. Although no wallets were compromised as a result from the attack, the incident left a bad impression of the firm's security practices with its tech-minded user base. And the only reason that none of the other information was taken is because none of that was stored by Ledger. But if now they're going to be storing your personal information, you could have a breach of if a breach happened again, now at this point, your personal information is stored somewhere there on their servers, and you could be the victim of identity theft, right? Or much worse, getting doxxed and whatever else. Quote, the Ledger, the company that has experienced multiple security breaches that expose personal information of hundreds of thousands of its customers, now wants you to export your private keys from your hardware wallet and give fragments to them, coin cover, and an unnamed third party, the NSA, once again, just joking, where any two can siphon funds. Tweeted chainlinkgod.eth, a community ambassador for the crypto infrastructure firm Chainlink. To facilitate recovery, they need you to dox yourself and give even more of your personal information, allowing anyone with your identity documents from other data breaches to take your funds. This seems poorly thought out. On a Twitter space responding to concerns around the service, Ledger's leadership defended its security practices, emphasized that the new recovery service was completely optional, and denied allegations that its new service amounted to any sort of a backdoor. Now, this is where things get a little interesting, because during this argument, Ledger support was getting flustered, and they actually tweeted this out, by the way, caught by, luckily, Coin Bureau here. So shout out to Coin Bureau. Says, technically speaking, it is and always has been possible to write firmware that facilitates key extraction. You have always trusted Ledger not to deploy such firmware, whether you knew it or not. So, they say, the official announcement here, we don't have that ability for a backdoor. There's no backdoor in this one, but that's because you just need to trust us and don't worry about it. But if we wanted to, we could, right? The idea here, though, excuse me, at the end of the day, is that with any case, updating firmwares can be risky. And in addition to that, any auto updates of firmwares could be risky at any point. Even if you aren't worried about the actual official firmware pushes, there could be malicious software on your computer that could push a firmware update unbeknownst to you that you accept, and then you could be compromised in that way. There are a lot of ways that this could go through. So to a certain extent, Ledger support here, I think, has a very valid claim. But at the same time, does that mean that you should use their product because they have a valid claim here? No, it just means that, yes, what they're saying is true. What Pascal is saying is true in regards to essentially the future adopters of cryptocurrency will want a service like this. And what Ledger support here is saying is true. It's always been true in IT that this is a security issue, right? So it's not wrong, but obviously it's bad optics. So just keep that in mind. They did go on to say that it's not a backdoor at all. You stay in control. Nothing will happen without your consent on device, said Ledger co-founder Nicholas Baca, adding that the team plans to open source its code in the future so that users can see how Ledger's recovery service safely encrypts user data and operates securely under the hood. Now, open sourcing everything is obviously a good move. So I would hope that they would open source this in general. And if I were to use it, I would want it to be open sourced and reviewed by people that I trust before I utilize the service, right? Just in general. Quote, people have had a lot of fear, which is perhaps unjustified, said Ian Rogers. I disagree. I think it's justified. Ledger's chief experience officer said. Rogers emphasized that Ledger was making its recovery service fully optional and was transparent about partnerships with third-party custodians. Quote, as a consumer, you have a choice, as you should know who it is that you're trusting. And that is the, at the end of the day, I would just urge you to understand that as far as the principles of crypto are concerned, that your choice should be to take responsibility into your own hands for custody of your cryptocurrency and to not utilize services like this, right? I mean, easy peasy, we can say that and we can educate people as far as that's concerned. But it does bring up other concerns surrounding even utilizing any ledger device in general. Previously, I'd say, okay, well, utilize a ledger device as your, warm wallet. You can have funds in there that you plan to sort of trade in the future, but you want to custody it in a safe manner, but with ease of access so you can get it out for any sort of trading that you want to do, that sort of thing. But as it sits now, excuse me, I got to get some water. As it sits now, I don't think that I would trust utilizing any sort of ledger device in general. And maybe for the warm wallet features, you do just go to that little bit more of a difficult path, but a safer one where you just have a separate, laptop that you're going to utilize for those specific purposes, right? That you connect and disconnect as you see fit. Gauthier reiterated that its recovery feature was a necessary step for attracting new crypto users. I'm sorry, but a piece of paper is a thing of the past and ledger recover is a thing of the future. He said, there is no compromise to security. Obviously, I do not think that is true. There's clearly a compromise to both security as well as privacy in this particular form, right? If you utilize recover, you have now, like I mentioned, 3 different security risks, essentially. You've added 3 points of failure, and you've given a company with a poor track record of securing their data centers, your private information, right? You're fully doxxed, that can be utilized to steal your identity. So there are definitely compromises. As an individual utilizing the Ledger Recover service, there are compromises to your security and your privacy regardless. That's undeniable at this point. So I completely disagree with that statement as far as that's concerned. So he also responded to critics of Ledger's track record. He said, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter saying, I'm sure this will be hacked in the next 12 months. And he said, okay, let's see. He added that the company has 6 million devices on the market and it hasn't been hacked, hasn't been compromised, and has no backdoors installed. But we're talking about individual devices. We're not talking about the data that you're storing in your data center to recover these devices, right? There's a difference because right now the product is they have a hardware wallet and the users connect that. It's much more difficult to compromise that than it is to compromise, a database that's sitting within a Ledger data center, right? Or at this point, probably some cloud service provider like Azure or AWS. So it is different. If Ledger ever gets hacked, any sort of credibility or reputation in the company will be at stake, he said. So of course, we're not going to make those kinds of mistakes. I think the problem is, sir, is those mistakes have been made in the past. And when we're talking about KYC, it's very clear that you're going to be storing that data, more sensitive data than has previously been stored, right? Thanks for checking out this clip from the Crypto Mining Show. You can check out the full episode here or more crypto content down here. Also, I'd like you to check out my locals page at sonofatech.locals.com where you can become a member for free or choose to be a $5 a month supporter that unlocks additional content.